How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Forever Arsenal podcast. It's the four regulars back in the building. Hopefully you're all well, aside from Arsenal, because it's not one of those results where, I'm assuming you're well off the back of it. We've lost 1-0, Champions League return game, last 16, Porto away. Yeah, and we lost it at the end. In typical, I'd say, old school Arsenal fashion. By old school, I mean 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was one of those games where towards the end, I started thinking to myself, the old Arsenal will lose this. But I thought the new Arsenal you know, would hold on to it. But it was a great finish, and it's something we're going to talk about, something we're going to debate, not just the finish, but all the talking points in the games. Hit the like button. Make sure we get to 1,000 likes nice and early. James, I was with you, so we'll steer away from our opinions for a sec, as they've heard it all on the watch-alongs yesterday, the fan cams. Jordan, Lee, Jordan, let's start with you today, because I haven't even spoken to you at all. I did watch Lee's fan cam, so we'll touch on Lee next. But yeah, I mean, where do we start? Let me let you tell me or tell us where we start on that one.
I'm going to start with the game overall. First of all, not good. Wasn't a good performance. I don't think that either team deserved to win. I think a draw was probably a fair result based off of both teams being poor, although I think them being poor was tactical to try and just suppress us because they know the form we're in. They came into the game not in great form themselves. If there had to be a winner, I would say they probably just edged it, but not by much. Listen, if we're going to win the Champions League, we've got to do better than that. But it's a two-legged tie. It's not over. I'm confident because the quality that we have in our record at home that we will still qualify. I'm confident about that, but it's definitely a dent in what's been a really positive start to the year so far. It's a really good run. I just don't think anybody really turned up. I thought Declan Rice actually, for most parts of the game, was his usual standard. Although we'll get to the goal in a minute, where I think he was culpable with the goal. But I don't think anybody in an Arsenal shirt really came out of that game with any real glory. If I'm being really honest, there's a few snitches online that noticed that I wasn't watching the game live. I was watching Griselda. First of all, Bad Boy series. Go watch Griselda on Netflix. It is cold, absolutely cold.
I've watched it, but how talk to me? How did
you didn't like it?
No, I watched it. No, I think they rushed the last 3 episodes. I started Queen of the South now, but
a little bit,
yeah, I like
yeah.
Griselda. But how did you manage to put on Griselda instead of the game?
When I watched the game afterwards, I was watching episode 2, and I just got hooked in, and I watched 3 episodes back to back, and before I knew it was 10 o'clock.
Well,
I've got one more to watch.
I probably would have rewatched Griselda now, but that's the answer. Watching the game.
For homework purposes, I watched the game from 10 o'clock on. I watched it back at 10, and yeah, you're right. I regret watching it. On the goal, it's a stinker. It's a stinker as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, it's a stinker. I heard Micah Richards on CBS's coverage last night calling an exquisite finish, and then I heard Robbie just came on. Robbie La, our boss here, who's with Lee out in Portugal, came on and said it was a great finish as well. What you talk? It's an absolute shocker as far as I'm concerned. If you look at the goal where it crosses the line, it's knee height. It's knee height. It's not even that high. I think David Reyes had a mare there because where he's positioned has enabled the guy striking the ball to decide he can take a shot. His positioning is awful. It's absolutely awful. And my biggest concerns about winning this title and winning the Champions League are not defense to attack. It's the 2 boxes, Turkish. It's the goalkeeper and it's the striker, Jesus. It's not being ruthless enough in both boxes in the games that really matter. They're my 2 big concerns. And this is an example. I was praising Raya on the last pod. I was praising David Raya on the last podcast, but I'm sorry, it's a shocker. Yes, there's build-up play from Arsenal, as I mentioned, where there's players that are culpable. I think who cleared the ball or who tried to pass the ball up to Martinelli? What are you doing? What are you doing? Just see the game out. It's 0-0. You don't need to score and win the game. And my final point would be that links into a point I made also on the last podcast about our inability in European games to navigate 2-legged ties. just see the game out and take a 0-0. You don't need to score a goal. So overall, I think it's a really poor performance. I think the goal was disappointing at the end because I think it's a cheap goal to give away. And unlike some, I am putting the blame on David Raya. I think it's not a difficult save to make, in my opinion.
I put it more on Rice and Martinelli than I would Raya. I know what you mean. I look at the goal and the height it went in, and I look at Raya maybe 4 or 5 steps at a goal, and would it have been different if he was a bit cold? Probably. But I do think the finish. I'll fall short of calling it exquisite. I think it was perfectly form to have that shot. Like you said, Rice didn't really protect the goal well enough in that moment, so the opportunity was there to curl it around, and he curled it around, and he buried it. I mean, Martinelli, for me, I don't mind trying to counter and nick a goal, but get the ball right, get it over the top and put it into space. That was the big problem with that clearance from him. Instead, it whizzed past Odegaard. They get back into possession, and then within 5-10 seconds later, we're 1-0 down. So I think there's a couple, people I'd blame ahead of Raya, even though he was a few steps out. I think Rice's early yellow card hindered him in that moment. It hindered him throughout the game, even though he still had a top game. I think in that moment, without a yellow card, you probably would have seen Rice either, take him out completely or win the ball and recover it. He couldn't do that, arms behind the back, and the rest is history, Lee. 1-0, very deflating goal to concede at the end. I know Jordan said draw was probably a fair result, but I think Porto fans might disagree. I think Porto fans might say they deserve to nick it. They probably implemented their game plan a lot better than we did, Lee.
Yeah, I think that is right. And I think if you look at it, I felt at one stage that both teams didn't want to win the game. I know that sounds silly to say, but I felt that Porto were looking to say I think they'd be exactly the same over the both games and try and nick a goal and try and win it 1-0 or something like that. I think that's their game plan for it. For us, I'm going to be really honest, in experience, I felt we was caught between whether to go for it or not, and it just affected our play. I really do. I don't think we was at it as we normally have. If that was a league game and we knew we had to win that, I think maybe would have been a little bit different. I thought we was a little bit too cautious going forward, if I'll be really honest. I think I get what Mikel was probably thinking. Let's say, for instance, we'd have gone for it and got caught on the counter-attack twice and lose 2-0, people have always said, well, why have you gone for it? So it's a very difficult how to manage it. But this is where inexperience or experience comes into these sort of games. And I felt that, listen, before the goal, as poor as the game was, listen, it was a drab game, if I'll be really honest. We're in the stands and saying that we're taking 0-0, we'll take it back to there, then they get the goal that they get. And I'm with Jordan. I felt that Raya should have done that. I expect my goalkeeper, a top class goalkeeper, to be saving things from 30 yards, and this is right in the top corner, rifled from like a bullet. It wasn't. I felt if he'd have been one step further over, he could have caught it. That's how. I didn't think it was like
he doesn't shoot, Lee. I think if he's where he's meant to be, I'm not sure he even takes a shot. I think he's shot because he's thought, oi, what are you doing that far out?
I don't think Raya can see it as well as you guys think. I think there's a lot of players in front.
And that's my point.
It's a late jump, but yeah.
One of the things is because maybe he's out of position because we give away the ball in a stupid area, and like people like. First of all, Martinelli's got the ball. There's 10 seconds on the clock. Actually, they're professional footballers. It's gone over the 4.5 minutes on the clock. You know what I mean? Just run it out. That's where the inexperience of this team comes in, because they're thinking to themselves, we can score here. I don't know what his thinking was. Just run the ball. Just run it. If we're 1-0 up, what does he do? He gets the ball and runs it into the corner. Why? But the mentality is it's 0-0. It's we've got to get used to this thing. I'll be really honest, guys. If this game was an away goals rule now, we'd be in trouble. We would be in trouble. Now I know that the game is probably played because it isn't that rule. But you know what I'm saying. I'll feel a little bit more confident going into the second leg, knowing that 2 goals, the away goal rule's not there. And then Declan Rice, you know, I thought it was Ben White that made the mistake, to be honest, but it wasn't. It was Declan. That I think was a surprise. But I agree. Look at the booking in the first minute. You know what I mean? Like, he ain't even looking at the play. Like, you know what I mean? We were sloppy from the first minute to the last. I really do. The final ball, we got into some good positions. Final ball was sloppy. The only one that I felt come out with any credit, I would say, was Martin Odegaard. I thought he played well. But every time he pushed the ball forward to the front three, they lost the ball. And the one thing, forget about the goal, forget about the result. The main concern for me is, in a game like that, we make one substitution. They make 4. They're a little bit fresher towards the end. Now, why are we only making one substitution? Because we haven't got anything. You know what I mean? Like, and we have got to get our players back now. Like, you know what I mean? Even if they're not playing, I want to see Jesus on the bench, Tommy Asu, I want to see Partey on the bench. Where are they? What has happened to Jesus? You know what I mean? Like, not even a mention of him by Mikel Arteta. So that tells me there's something seriously wrong. And you have to ask yourself, like, you know, what has happened with Eddie? You know, not being trusted in games like that, like, you know what I mean? And I'm not having a go at Mikel. This is where we are now. You know, there's players on that. But I actually watched the warm. We had to stay in after the game and had to do the warm up. You know, they're all doing the warm up, like, you know. 4 players on there I don't even recognise. I wouldn't know who they were. Sweet. Never heard of him, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Heaven.
I'm not having a go at these guys, you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, this is a knockout of the Champions League, you know, being big money and everything going with it. I've got 4 players running.
You're back. But your audio's not back, though. Can't hear you, mate. As beautiful as it sounds, we cannot hear you.
We cannot hear a word.
Best voice since Adele.
James, you want to pick up?
I'll jump in.
Can't hear you, Lee.
Yeah, flip it upside down. That should do it.
Beautiful. While Lee sorts himself out, James, I guess it's naturally over to you.
Okay. 3 thoughts. Firstly, this is halftime. And actually, when I say that, like, it really is. I said on my fan cam, we have the potential to make this result absolutely not matter. This isn't like, you know, when we say, oh, bounce back in the next one, when we're talking about the Premier League, you know, that last result, it sits no matter what. This one doesn't have to sit. Beauty of 2-legged football. Do your job at home. It don't have to count. You get what I'm saying, right? When I say that, like, we can genuinely fix this in 90 minutes at the Emirates. Will we? I don't know. People rightly mentioning that our record at the Emirates isn't always perfect, especially in Europe. Look at Sporting last year and stuff, and Olympiacos or whatever, Villarreal. But we can. That's the first thing. So I'm optimistic. I just want to get that out there first thing. Second thing, Lee used the word sloppy. For me, that was my biggest disappointment. I know everyone's going about the goal. I get it. I think it's a bit harsh on Raya. I'm not saying he couldn't do better. I just think in the 94th minute, you know, where the team's done absolutely nothing, they've just won the ball back on the edge of the area, then they give it away again immediately in a dangerous area. For me, I just can't look at Raya, really. I know it's his job to, but could he have done better? Maybe. But I'm blaming the people before that for making a real mess of it, in my opinion. Sloppiness was a factor in our game the whole way through, from Rice getting the early yellow to every misplaced pass to every poor cross to everything. It was just sloppy. Saliba, very lucky to get away with, you know, Galena hitting the post and then putting it wide on around 10, 20 minutes. That was very lucky. So I think a 1-0 is probably a fair reflection, though I actually agree with what both Jordan and Lee said. I don't think either team really played to win it. It made for a really dull game. I was on CBS because they were doing a little thing with AFTV. And I said around the 55th minute when they had me on, I said, it's boring. Let's be really honest. It's quite a boring game. And then the third thing that overnight, having slept on it, really wound me up about Arsenal with this. And look, again, none of this is the end of the world. We're not on some major rant here. It's just an observation. I actually felt Arsenal showed a real lack of character and personality in this game. Now, I think that gets thrown around a lot, that kind of cliche when a team doesn't do well. Oh, show some character, show some bottle, show some whatever. I thought Arsenal really did. From Diogo Costa at the before the game, talking about Arsenal have weaknesses and they need to prove to us they're one of the favourites, to in-game sloppy yellow cards, sloppy tackles, sloppy passes. Porto going down at every single set piece, about 4 of them dropping with every corner, to diving at any opportunity. The ball was in play 51 minutes. I think that's the lowest of any Champions League game. Constant stoppages in play, constant diving, constant gamesmanship. I'm not blaming Porto. They got to do everything to win. Credit to him. I'm looking more at the referee, but I'm looking at Arsenal to take that personally, to be like, what? You jokers, we're going to punish you for this. And then to actually show some character at the end of the game, to recognise they've not been at it, get the 0-0 and get out. Don't let them get away with the satisfaction of their game. Let them at least go, all right, our game plans kept us in it, not it won them the game. And then I don't know if they're fake quotes, but I've seen quotes from the Porto manager. I don't know if they're real, but it came from an official Arsenal account saying that we came to play football, but they came to win. Like, nonsense. And I'm not having a go. They had the better chances and they executed their game plan better. And I get what they're saying. We were all kind of pass with no real kind of penetration and cutting edge. But at no point did Arsenal really look to me like they were kind of bothered by what was going on. I felt like more as fans, we were like, the fuck is what? Not on our watch. And it never felt like the players really felt that. And so I really hope come that game at the Emirates, they're fired up. None of this, well, let's ease into it, see how they do, get through the first 20, don't concede, make the job. I want to blow them away in the first 20, 30 minutes. I want to do to them what we did to Liverpool in some of those games where we played them recently. I want to do to them what we've been doing to West Ham, Burnley, and Palace. I want us to be aggressive on the front foot and just punish them for the gamesmanship, for the kind of, the dark arts and all that. Just play your football and blow them away, because I didn't feel that Arsenal ever looked particularly bothered by what was going on the pitch, but the occasion, the Champions League knockout. It just felt like another game away from home, manager. And I get it. I get to a degree they didn't want to overcommit and they didn't want it to be a basketball match. And I hear that. But I just felt we lacked a little bit of character. That's my main criticism. I don't really have a lot of criticism for Arteta. It's the same 11 that went out and slapped Burnley and West Ham. I think the players were really sloppy. I think they let the manager down more than the manager let us down. Could he have made changes sooner? I think he should have recognised that Rice and Havertz being on yellows, especially Rice for a lot of the game, it hampered our ability to properly press and properly commit to anything off the ball, because we didn't really want to leave him to expose, and we didn't want to leave him, having to make last-ditch tackles or whatever. So I actually think that Jorginho sub could have come a bit earlier. I'm not sure Rice should have seen out the 90. I think Smith Rowe could have come on, because Havertz wasn't really at it. I'd have kept Trossard on, not because he was playing well, just because he could do something out of nothing. See what Galeno did at the end? Trossard is our most likely player to do that. So that's it, really, in the way of criticisms. I felt character was lacking, but we can turn it around, and it's half time. Do you guys see the character thing I'm talking about, or am I doing too much?
Can I just jump in there? I think you're right. You've nailed it, James, as to kind of what I think I was struggling to kind of articulate what was missing. And you're right. It's when you're not always going to play well. You're not always going to score lots of goals, but especially in European competitions, when you can't play well and you can't shine, you have to show a little bit of character. And character might just well mean, look, boys, without saying it literally, we're not playing well today. We want to get back home. Let's just see this out. It's a two-legged tie. Nothing stupid, no bad injuries, no red cards, no stupid goals. Character is just, let's just do a professional job. It's a boring game, but that's okay. Some games are going to be boring. So I think you're 100% correct in the lack of character. That's, you've got Saliba, you've got Gabriel, you've got Rice, you've got Saka, you've got players that I think can step up and lead in recognizing it's not a great game. There's no flowing goals happening here, but let's see this out. But I just want to also mention Arteta just briefly, because I agree with you, Anley, in that normally I like to kind of lead with Arteta. If we lose, I think we should start with him. If we win, I think we should start with him. But on this one, I'm not going to criticize Arteta. I don't think Arteta was the problem in this particular game. I think this one is for the players, that they let him down. You think?
Well, what Villarreal, Olympiacos, Sporting, now Porto. This ain't nothing new. And at the end of the day, in the first 2025, we realized we're not really creating much. We're beating their press, but then we're not working it into the right spaces. They're closing us down. Within 20 minutes, we saw that. The same could be said after 70 minutes. So what happened? Did you get? I know you played the same team, but you mentioned players that we've got on the bench and players that he's stuck by as well. I'm not going to forget about these players. Like, you stuck by Eddie. We need a goal. You don't want to bring him on. Instead, you bring on a midfielder to hold the ball a bit more. You move the midfielder you bought in the summer to striker, and then you try to make that work. The reality is, some of the fringe players he doesn't trust, and that was my biggest gripe at the beginning. And we're coming into the end of the season where you start trusting the players on the fringes, or you're meant to. Like, this is where Pep starts doing it. You know, Klopp had to do it because of the injuries. With us, I just think that, listen, when we're winning 5-0, 6-0, when we're winning games, this whole controlling thing looks great. But when it's games like yesterday or games like Fulham, it does look like, you know, we're void of any other ideas or a plan B or being able to switch it up, which is mad because in the last 2 games, we've seen us control and attack. But these games come up like far too often for me, and especially when you're thinking about our trajectory is meant to be going towards a team that becomes more consistent, towards a team that becomes a team to start sending messages week in, week out. 2024 started so well, and yes, it's a small hump, but this hump gets bigger if we don't qualify in a couple of weeks. This hump gets bigger if we drop points to Newcastle on the weekend. So we need to make sure it's not a blip, but at the same time, Arteta also needs to listen. We're deep into this process now. Yeah. Whatever happens at the end of this season, we're there or thereabouts in the title challenge. In the summer, he needs to now sort out the fringe players and the ones that he cannot rely on and the ones that he brings in that he can rely on. Because I think that's a big problem for us. If we're playing like that against Porto, what happens at the Bernabeu? What happens at the Etihad?
I agree with you. The one thing I'll say though is what makes me stop looking at a manager, not fully. There are complaints, but I just think as a headline complaint, as my base problem, I'm looking at the players. Shitty passes, shitty touches, shitty decision making. And while you're saying it's 4 years into the process and looking at Arteta, I can also use that on the players. Like, it's been 4 years now as a team that you've been growing, getting to this moment, and you look so sloppy, like at this stage. I level that at them as well. If Arsenal had a lot of the ball and we were, probing and passing with no real ideas, I'd be looking at the manager to inject something. Like, they're lacking something there, Mikel. Give it. But it's the fact that maybe to be fair, maybe someone in the comments will say, well, James, isn't that true? If they were being sloppy, should have made changes and punished them for playing that way. Maybe. I really did look at the 11 out there and I thought, the amount of times the ball was just passed out to the centre-back out wide and Saliba would just let it roll past him. Or, not let it, but it just went out of play. That early Rice yellow, I don't think we can underestimate. Like, it just set the tone. And you're right, he actually settled and did very well being on a yellow. And his overall game was okay. He still made some good challenges. I think I counted 3 fouls after that, to be fair. So he did well to just ride the line slightly. But there was just something about Arsenal. They just didn't, like, the players. They look. The word I used was hungover. I think they just looked hungover. One of those games where the game just seemed to pass a lot of them by. Some were good. I will give some credit in a bit. I thought some did step up to it, but yeah.
For me, the biggest problem has been, I said it 2 games ago, if we don't get the job done at West Ham early, we're in trouble with the bench. And that was what happened yesterday. We also against Burnley, scored early. We didn't really need the bench to change things. Yesterday was a game when you felt, can we just change it up a little bit? Can we do something different? And he's probably looking on his bench and thinking, well, I haven't really got a lot on there to do that. And that's the problem at this moment in time. I will say, I agree with Turkish, where, how can I say it, in these European games, that we've been poor. We've been poor. We've gone out to the teams that Turkish mentioned. Even this time around in Europe, let's just go on our away form at the moment. Lens lost, PSV drew. Beat Seville, lost again today. It's not good. It's something that needs to be improved, and the manager has to take accountability for that at some stage. Not now, because it's not about today. It's about what happens now at the Emirates. It's over 2 legs, and I think that's where you have to. I think we're caught because of that. I really do but I'm with you on this, James. There was 4 or 5 times yesterday, first touches of players which either were knocked out or they give it away. There was one where the ball, Martinelli, I think, is fantastic skill-wise. Ball comes to him and it went 6 to 7 yards off of his body. That's a professional football. Never happens. They nick it. Saliba let it go under his foot on 1 or 2 occasions. The Declan Rice booking. That was, you don't see that in a normal game of football. Like Ben White, the ball's coming down for him for a header. I don't know if you remember it. He tries to head it square. We nearly get caught out by it. Just silly little things like that happened in the game. I don't think we knew what we would actually. I say we knew what the game plan was. I think we got caught as, is 0-0 a good result, or do we go for it? And I just think we was hesitant in that, and I think that was our problem. Listen, this could come back and bite us. I think we're all talking in here today. We're pumping 3-0 back at home and all that. Yeah, we might do it, but if we don't, this could be a major problem for us, because if we were to go out to Porto, this is not. This is a team that's going to go out the following round at Olympiacos. I think we lose to them. Certainly lost to Sporting Lisbon last week. Where did they end up? Did they end up winning it? No, they're out the next round. You've got to get through this time now. I think it's for pressure on Mikel. I don't think there should be any talk about that. But there was last night again. People coming up to me like, he's not going to take us over the line, Lee. He's not going to take us over the line. We don't need that at this moment in time. We need to be just still together. It's one little blip in a competition that the defeat doesn't matter as long as you get through. I know it sounds stupid, but that's
how many Champions League winners have lost a game like this in the knockout stage?
Listen, Turkish, we were saying about that. Manchester City ain't lost a game yet. You know what I mean? Here we are, 3 or 4. We haven't won 3 or 4. But Real Madrid do this quite a lot, lose a game and then everybody go, and then they just steam through it and all that, And I am with you on this. I think you've got to get momentum in the league as we have done, but also in this Champions League. I expect to, if that's Manchester City, if that's the top team today, I'm not expecting them to lose yesterday. If Manchester City would play, like when Manchester City went to Copenhagen, I'm expecting them to win. Do you know when it 3-1? Yeah, well, it was expected. That's what we should be saying about Arsenal, but it's not.
We should, Lee. We should. And listen, Arsenal have enough firepower to be able to get past Porto over 2 legs, 100%. If we get knocked out, that's a shocker. I agree. But I also think it's a slightly unfair comparison, because we've seen this story before where to get to a final of the European Cup or to win the European Cup, it takes seasons. It took Man City quite a few embarrassing knockouts before they won it. Let's go back to United in the early 90s. They were getting beaten by Monaco, by Dortmund, by a few lesser European teams before 99 happened. Even Chelsea, before Chelsea won it, they had to. So whilst I think you have to beat Porto. I'm sorry, you've got to beat Porto, granted. But I also think that if we don't win it this year, it's not a case of, we need to lose our heads, because Europe's a different animal. Europe is a different animal. You have to be seasoned in this. You might have to go through a few heartbreaks before, history shows us that you do have to go through a few heartbreaks before you lift the European Cup. So it's a process. And while I'm with Turkish in that he's been there 4 seasons now, you've got to improve on your European record. Going all the way, if we win it this season, that will be a freak. We're not supposed to win it this season, despite there not being a lot of great competition. We're not supposed to win the European Cup this year. It takes a few seasons. So I'll cut him a little bit of slack. But going back to the game itself, I'm with you all. You got to knock out Porto. Last night wasn't acceptable, but as James says, it's half time. Handle your business in 2 weeks' time. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Go wash your face, man. Wake up,
In
man.
it,
It's
man.
10 a.m.
It's
in the
screwing
morning.
your face, in it.
Go cream your feet as well, man. Do something.
For audio listeners, Krusty Cecil just walking in the background there,
Krusty.
but behind Lee. Look at this guy.
They're the
Wiping
worst
rubbish
feet
clean
I've
on
ever seen, I've got to say.
Yeah, so it's not all lost, but yeah, I agree. Mikel Arteta,
I'm not
you can't be
accepting
any
it
club to
though.
Porto.
I'm not accepting good. Like, I get it. We need heartbreaks. What the fuck was the 19 years of getting in the competition for absolutely nothing? What was the Europa League in the last 6-7 years?
That's not on Arteta's watch, though.
It's not on Arteta's watch, but he's picked up a club that the owners have put into a situation where he's picked us up, having gone through a lot of heartbreak in 20 years. I'm not putting it on Mikel. But what I'm saying is these owners can't get away with giving me another manager, another face, and then thinking that we forget about everything prior to him. That's why I say it's a balance. Sometimes people think I'm getting onto Mikel. It's a lot of the time it's not necessarily on Mikel I'm talking about. It's the damage done from these owners before. And just because they put a new face in front of it doesn't mean that I forget about it. Because, okay, Arteta doesn't win anything this season, doesn't win anything next season. A new face comes in. Does that mean I'm quiet again for 5 more years to see? To realize new heartbreak and get over it? And nah, I'm sorry, but there's a way. Like in the Europa League, when we went out to Atletico, very frustrating. That was heartbreaking because I think we should have gone through, and it was a Koscielny, error that cost us. But I get Atletico beating us. I get it. Even that season, I said I don't want to play Atletico. Chelsea in the final, embarrassing. We should have put up more of a fight, but Chelsea are Chelsea. They're a top side. They've got a bit of heritage, and they had top quality players. I don't get the Villarreals. I don't get the Olympiacoses. I don't get the Sportings. I'm gonna add Porto to that list because Porto, I said it on the watch along, they're the same level as PSV, as Sevilla, as the teams we had in the group stages. We was blessed with the draw, and we fucked it. Now, I still think we'll go through. Again, famous last words, maybe, because I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. Because against Villarreal, we said we'll do it in the second leg. Against Sporting, we said we'll do it in the second leg. Against Olympiacos, we said we'll do it. It's the same story as those three. Now, go do it. Go smoke them now. Because I think James said similar. Go smoke them now and make people forget about this. Like we did to Lons in the group stage. Remember when we lost to they're not ready for Europe. Smoke them in the return leg. And no one's talking about Lons anymore, that defeat. That's what we got to do to Porto because it's actually lined up now for Porto to be just behind Man City. There's going to be like a 19-day break. But those 2 games can define the rest of our season. Back-to-back massive games in the 2 competitions we're in. And if we don't start with a healthy victory over Porto going through in the Champions League, that Man City game becomes a lot scarier because if we go out of the Champions League before that Man City game, they're saying a bigger fish to fry thing. All the focus, all the pressure becomes on us on the 31st, not Man City. And we've seen us crumble under pressure. So that's why as well, I want to talk about the players because a lot of debates about world class going on. And listen, it's only the morning after, so I'm still angry. But let the fucking players cook. Let's stop debating all of this. Let the players cook. Because, last night was an opportunity for players to stand up and to add repertoire to their world-class debate or ranking. None of them did. Not one single player did. And I'm not just talking about Saka here. I'm talking about Rice, Saliba. I'm talking about the ones that are on the cusp of that conversation. This is where you cook. This is what separates the boys from the men, as they say. So let them cook. The return leg, I need these players to look at themselves. Martinelli and Saka, abysmal. Martinelli more so. But it's not the first time I've said that this season. And Martinelli is one of my favorite players. But I don't shy away from criticizing my favorite players. Like Martinelli and Saka, so disappointed in them. I thought young Champions League knockout stage, you've put the club, partly put the club on your back over the last few years. You are our shining lights in attack. I expect goals. I expect chances, shots. I expect chaos. We got absolutely none of that. So I start with Martinelli and Saka for a reason because people can't say I got an agenda against them. I don't think Odegaard was that good. I think he tried, but I think the fact he had to drop so deep to pick up the ball kind of nullified him in the final third, which in turn nullified a bit of our attack. And then we've got Trossard up top. Didn't do well after a couple of games up top. Everyone wants to see him up top for the rest of the season. But we've seen before that we can't rely on Jesus up top. We can't rely on Eddie up top. We can't rely on Trossard up top. We can't rely on Havertz. We haven't got a reliable person up top. We can chop and change it all we like. Trossard might bang for 2. Jesus might bang for 9. Eddie might bang a hat-trick against Sheffield United, and Havertz might come off the bench and score against Brentford. Give me 30 games. None of them strikers can give me 30 games. And that is a big problem with the recruitment in attack. None of those strikers are reliable. And I'll move on to Havertz now. I wonder if all these comments this week are going to be about Havertz and how good he was. That's what I wonder. As much as there's well wishes for Kevin Campbell, and big up Kevin Campbell, hope you're getting better and you're back on the screen soon. There's equally the amount of Havertz propaganda in there. So come talk to me about him today. It's exactly the same performance he had in the last 3 games. It's just that the other 2 we won. This one we lost. There's nothing different to what I'm seeing from Havertz. Okay, he might link up, play a little better against West Ham. Surprise, surprise. There's a bit more space. He manages to pass the ball a couple more times. But what are you doing when it's Champions League? What are you doing when the camera's lights, they're on you? I didn't see nothing for none of them. But Havertz is the new signing. He's the main man. He's the cog. He's the important piece. He's the one that, sorry, this was for comments of the day. I'm going to bring it up now. Havertz is the best thing at the club right now. He's behind every single goal. Are you absolutely tapped out of your skull? I don't understand how people can say this. I don't understand.
Listen, I'm gonna stick up for Havertz yesterday. I thought we done okay today, right? And one of the problems that I had with it yesterday is that he found himself into.
It's okay, good enough, Lee. It's okay, good enough.
Hold on.
Third week, you said he's done okay.
He got himself into good spaces yesterday, right?
Am I in a good space now?
It never ever comes.
Am I opening to come in there and
listen, Turkish.
He rolled his chair back.
It never comes to him.
His head's gone. Turkish's head's gone.
This is the mic. I need to be here, not.
No, listen. Football is about getting yourself into good spaces and things like that. He put himself into positions. If I was him, I'd have been frustrated yesterday because I was watching it. He gets himself into the space, goes, and it was not getting to him. They look at it. Gabriel guilty of it on many occasions, not only with Havertz, he's guilty on it with Martinelli as well. He looks at it and he doesn't play it. And there was loads of times. If he'd have put that pass into Havertz, we would have been in 4 or 5, 6 times.
What about the last? Was it 10 minutes or something? James will remember exactly. I think it might have been Saka. We won the ball. He released the ball straight away to Havertz, who just peeled off a defender. And if his first touch was right, he's through on goal. Or at best, he's through.
His first
touch was abysmal. A bit.
But so was everybody else's Turkish. Like, I mean, I agree with you. There was one time, Odegaard, who's got a fantastic touch in the second half. If his first touch let him down, if he touches it, he's in. But he didn't. I think it was everybody on that night. Listen, I didn't think Havertz was fantastic yesterday by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't think he wasn't helped by some poor play, sloppy play from certain players. You know what I mean? Gabriel yesterday, I love him as a defender, was back to his old ways yesterday. Getting the ball, get it out wide. He kept putting it on his foot, coming inside. I don't really know what was the game plan of that, And listen, I'm with you on certain things. I think at the end of the day, we've had, like Jordan was saying, we've been in Europe. We've had 3 years of learning in the Europa League, and we've not learned a thing because we're still doing the same sort of things in away games as we did yesterday. And I think that yesterday, I'm going to be honest with you, I felt that our forward players let us down because every time they got the ball, they lost it, or it was a bad touch or wrong decision, and it caused problems all the way through the team.
I agree and I disagree with Turkish. The bit I disagree with, I think Havertz was significantly better against West Ham. Burnley, I thought he was all right, but he got the goal. I thought against West Ham he was actually good. There were a lot of things I could point out that I thought he did well in that game. I don't think he was good against Porto at all. I think the frustration is, Lee, with Kai Havertz is, okay, he was getting into good spaces or whatever. I'm actually not blaming him with what I'm about to say. If this is the way he plays the game, this is what Arteta needs him to do, fine. But when you're away from home and the team is sloppy and there's no rhythm and we don't know how we can progress the ball, I'd like to see a midfielder go, give it to me and let's play. Give it to me. Just give it, play, give it, go. It feels like he floats around the game. And I think if we're ticking and we're moving and we're passing and we're in our flow, we're getting around the penalty area and we're able to pick crosses to the back post, we're able to, put off those neat passes through the lines, then yeah, maybe his movement comes through, maybe his intelligence and his tactical awareness. I didn't see him command the ball, but I also am acknowledging now that at this point, that's not the way he's going to play the game. And we'll come to just one sec, where I agree with Turkish, the comments, not just in this video, I did a video on my channel, basically asking, like, should we be appreciating him more in the way Arteta does? And the comments was filled with people going, you AFTV haters, like, you don't get it. If you don't understand Havertz, you don't know football. All I'll say is maybe I don't know football, but I don't understand what he was meant to do in yesterday's game. I don't know
How
what
do man know Arteta appreciate him so much? What is this? Should we appreciate him like Arteta does? How do people know Arteta? He spent 65 M's on him.
That was actually my question, but
Yeah,
like,
how can you
because he plays him every game, Turkish. Like, he must appreciate. He's always saying he loves him, and then he scores against Brentford, and he's doing hugs around him at the crowd, and like he plays him every game. He kept him on yesterday on a yellow card. He wasn't doing anything. Like he must appreciate.
He's trying to get something.
He paid 65 million for him. He does appreciate him, whether we like it or not. He does. And so what I'm trying to find out is
that's
why.
the word. I think he's trying to get something out of him to appreciate more than I'm playing him because I appreciate him. I don't give a shit about all this space creating and all this nonsense that this modern day game is bringing.
Well, I agree in a game like yesterday where I just wanted to see our midfielders get on the ball and play.
And you're right.
Take control. Jorginho, we said in the preview, this is no hindsight nonsense. We said in the preview it was a game for Jorginho. He came on, he was crap. But trust me, if he'd started that game, I think we settle into it a lot better. But
can I come in there? Because
Jordan, just on this point earlier, yeah, because when he was talking about Havertz, and this is where people need to understand, I try and be quite balanced. As James was talking about Havertz, midfielder, in times and situations like yesterday, you'd want him to pick up the ball. Yes, as a midfielder, as a number 8, 100%, I get the reason why. Not necessarily me, because I don't have expectation of him. I think we fucked up. But at that moment, I want to mention Saka, or I want to mention Odegaard or Martinelli, because they are the ones that have the expectation of. When I talk about Havertz, I'm talking about the money he's on and the money we spent. That's where I talk about him, his performances, and what he does or doesn't bring. With the others, I've seen them do bits for Arsenal, so there's more expectation there from me. And they didn't do that. One thing about the whole Foden Saka thing, I think Saka's clear. But I do think what Foden has is in difficult moments, Foden's always looking for the ball, dropping, coming into the middle. He'll start applying a bit of pressure. Saka, he needs to stand up in games like this. He needs to, if he's being double teamed, don't come out after the game and say, I'm being doubled. No, work away around it. If you're not getting the ball enough, come for it. I know Odegaard's doing that. No, you're the star boy. Yeah, you are the best player in attack. Come for the ball. Start probing. So yes, Havertz, you're right. The same can be said for the whole attack, and that's why I just want to take a bit of that away from Havertz because it's not all on him.
No, of course.
I look at Saka as the main guy in attack, and he did nothing as well.
No, I agree, but I want to just say as well, just to sum up on this Havertz point. Once upon a time, I'd have been saying the guy doesn't want the ball, and that would have been a criticism of him. I'm long past that now. I now understand what he wants to do. He wants to float into areas, float into spaces, get on the end of balls forward, and try and knit things together in the final third. And does he do it? Great. I'll let everyone debate that. Against West Ham, I thought he did it well. Against Burnley, I thought he did it okay. In this game, I thought he was pretty ineffective. I'm looking now more at Arteta to go, we need a little bit more drive in midfield. We need a little bit more quality and class. And I think Vieira and Smith Rowe would have been better. But yeah, anyway, it's what it is. I agree. Other players get more heat for me.
It's funny you mentioned, just my brief comment on on Havertz. It's funny you mentioned there, James, Jorginho, because I was just about to say that I look at Havertz now in the same way I look at Jorginho. I think he has got qualities that are and weapons that are valuable to us, but I think he got to pick your games. I don't think Havertz should be a starter. I think he has to be applied and brought in for particular games. I don't think he, in the same way Jorginho can't. I love Jorginho. He can't play every game. Not every game isn't right for Jorginho, and I think the same applies for Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I hear that. Just on players that I thought did okay. Apparently you guys weren't particularly kind to Ben White in the player ratings, Lee. Is that right?
Is it?
I thought Ben White in the last couple of games has been outstanding for us, but I thought he was sloppy yesterday. I didn't think it was one of his better games. I thought there was some good things from him and some sloppy moments from him. Like, look, listen, you see things differently when you're watching it. Like there's a couple of guys in here, like I'm not going to mention their names, disagreeing with the Havertz thing, like saying that he wasn't that bad last night. Like it's opinions, I suppose. I didn't think Havertz was that bad yesterday watching the game. I didn't think Ben White was awful, but the standards that he set in the last couple of games, I thought he fell short of it. Like yesterday,
That's so interesting. I find it. One thing I've noticed since being at AFTV is that, like going to games, I see it so differently. Like, I remember coming away from games where I thought Ødegaard was sloppy, and then other people were going, "No, he was man of the match." I was like, "Really?" And then I watched the highlights from a TV perspective. I'd be like, "Oh, that did look good, actually. I didn't realize how good that was." So I do think I'm not going to go hard on like people's opinion of seeing it slightly differently, on the pitch, but I felt Ben White, especially first half, was our best player. I thought he was the only one. He was sweeping up nicely. I thought he was the only one defending well, actually. Very neat on the ball. Actually turning in tight space in central midfield. I actually thought he was the only one, who actually played to fairly, so 7 or more. I felt Gabriel did okay. Kivior did well. I thought Saliba was the sloppiest of the back four. Otherwise, they were fine. It was then everything in front. Ødegaard tried. There's no question Ødegaard tried. He wanted the ball. He wanted to try and knit things together. It didn't quite come off for him, but I do appreciate the effort. But that was it, really. I thought Ben White came through as the best player for me. But
James, it's a really funny thing you say. I didn't think Declan Rice was that bad. I actually said 7, and Robbie and Sissy went 7. He was worse than that. Like, you know what I mean? You do see some things a little bit differently. I get that. Like, you know what I mean? Listen. Everybody knows that what I think of Ben White. I know
you love him. Yeah.
But I think that I thought the last couple of games his standard was it. I didn't think he was as great as what he was like, but I'm with you on that. Saliba, I'm going to say this now. Saliba's last 3 games have been a little bit sloppy. I don't think he's been right at it in the last few games. Still done some good things yesterday. Don't get me wrong. Like defensively, you can forgive him and everything like that. But I just think with Ben White, he just sort of summed up everybody's performance. I think really yesterday, he just wasn't quite good enough. But I didn't think he was bad as what other people have made him out to be.
If I'm to kind of, sorry,
go on.
Just quickly, if I was to try and put a positive slant on this defeat, does anybody think that with it being a 2-legged game and we're still favourites to go through, this could give the team the kind of jolt they need to make sure that the next couple of games, they don't let the West Ham and Burnley game reap any kind of complacency?
Great point. I think
that's a great point. It's a bit of a slap. It's a bit of a slap that you had a good couple of weeks, but there's still work to do. Am I clutching? Maybe I'm clutching.
No, I think it's a great point. I think that at the end of the day, I've said it all along. If you don't turn up in the Premier League, you will get found out. If you don't turn up in Europe, you'll definitely get found out. So if we're going to lose a game or not have a performance in the next, like, say if you tell me Newcastle, Sheffield United, Brentford, Porto, what game you want us to not turn up and get a lesson? It was last night, and hopefully they will get a lesson on that last night, because at the end of the day, it's retrievable. A defeat at Sheffield United or a defeat at Brentford, I don't think is retrievable at this moment in time at Newcastle. I don't think it is. So we've got to, go. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. Can I be really honest with you? That game was not very great yesterday. I'm on my phone looking at the Luton Liverpool score. Luton are winning 1-0. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't really, because it was you know, 0-0 would do us sort of side. I don't know the psychological things of the players and whatever like, but I think that what it makes now is a very interesting game at the Emirates coming up. Like, you know what I mean? That's what it's going to be.
Look, let me say, right. Obviously, a 0-0 is better than 1-0 defeat. Obviously, winning and carrying on the momentum is better than losing. Obviously, before anyone starts going, "Oh, you lot making excuses or whatever." Like, but I live my life believing that if something bad happens, see the opportunity in it and try and make the best of it. Arsenal lost a game of football, so how do I spin this? How do I spin this to try make it an opportunity? Well, what Jordan said, I think, is right, and what Lee said. If you get, we weren't going to be perfect for the rest of the season. So if you're going to have a bad one, it's probably a good one to have a bad one in. But also, I wonder again, very much scraping the barrel, looking for positives, trying to spin this in a good way. The assignment's very clear now at the Emirates: go score goals, and it sounds really silly. I just wonder if. You know, when also like, you know, when you're behind, you got to go score goal. It sounds silly when you're level. Well, we got to score, but also, don't concede. Don't let. Okay, but just settle into it. See if you can build your way. There's kind of no room for any of that nonsense. Just go and play your bloody football and go attack them and go, win the damn game. It makes this assignment very clear for Arsenal. Now, listen, I know what I just said. Scraping, absolute scraping. I'd rather have gone 0-0. I'd obviously rather have gone 1-0 up. All I'm saying is a shit has happened. Let's see the opportunity in it. Arsenal, the assignment's very clear. Go make it right.
100%.
Full stop. 3 weeks from now, we'll see if that happens. We still got Premier League games in between. 52 minutes on the clock, so we are going to keep it moving because I know Jordan's got to be off soon. But we could probably talk a bit more about the game. But listen, it's our first loss for a little while. Deflating, yes, but a chance to move on straight away. Saturday, Newcastle at the Emirates. Jordan, Lee, James. I mean,
I'm excited.
Excited, yeah?
Yeah. 8 p.m. Saturday night, Newcastle. Do you know, I think this is exactly the fixture we need. I'm not saying we go and necessarily win, but I'm still pissed at the way shit went down at St. James's Park. I'm still pissed at the way they time wasted at the Emirates January last year.
Yeah.
I'm still pissed at Bruno Guimaraes elbowing Jorginho in the head. I'm still pissed at, the social media announcement with Arsenal in here. Yes, I'm a salty fan, but isn't this what we want? We want some heat, we want some bite in the game. I've got a lot of respect for what Newcastle did getting in the Champions League and Eddie Howe, the work he's done, but I don't like him that much. 8 p.m. at the Emirates on the back of that defeat in the Champions League, opportunity to make it 6 in a row in the Premier League. Let's have it. Like, I want the players to be feeling that way. Come on. I want the Emirates to be loud. It's taking up my Saturday night. I've got social plans I'm leaving behind. I don't care. Make it worth it. Blow them away. I want Arsenal to do what they did to Liverpool. Just all this ferocious, pressing, aggressive in their face. Don't let them come to the Emirates and have a good time of it. They're a good side, Newcastle, especially in big games. They can be at it. But they've been part of some chaotic games, lots of goals, pretty open. So go and have a go, Arsenal, and just re-inject something back in to our momentum and our form. Not into the season. I think there's plenty in the season, but go re-inject some momentum. And I think 8 p.m. Newcastle, Saturday night is the perfect opportunity to do it.
Yeah, they can't.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one because I've always been a quite I wouldn't say like one of my favourites, but I've always had a lot an admiration for Newcastle, their fans, and
I admire them.
Can't stand
but
them.
after that last,
Their fans, not the players.
After that last game, I can't stand them, and they've lost it when they were getting pumped and everything like that. I'm going to say I enjoyed it nearly as much as Spurs. Like, you know what I mean? And do you remember they got pumped by Spurs at one stage? At one point, I forgot it was Spurs pumping them, and like, you know what I mean? I'm thinking, oh, this is really good. Like, get them and stuff them. I want these taken to the sword on Saturday night because of what happened at Newcastle. Listen, I got their fans up there were gracious after the game and all that. Like, I'm not saying you're not, but I didn't like their attitude in that game one bit whatsoever. So we need to win this game quickly, like.
Hey, Robbie, keep it down, mate. Just
Robbie, can you keep it down, please? You know, he's got some mouth he has, I tell you, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
I don't have a lot to kind of say on the game beyond. I'm kind of with. I think it was Turkey said earlier on. I'm looking for Saka now between now and May to really announce himself. I mean, I'm gonna have a chat with is it Frankie from the channel?
Yeah,
Frank, yeah. Who's Saka's personal PR man right now for being world class. Because we won't get into it now, but I disagree with him vehemently, but he's entitled to his view. But if he is the player that Frank says he is, these are the games where I need him to, off the back of a poor game in midweek, I need him to step up and be like, all right, guys, I'm going to get this title challenge, get it going. Because as Lee said earlier on, I think we're in that kind of like territory of, I think if you drop points, you're done. I don't think we have to go into machine-like modes. I think we have to go into machine mode now. It's got to be turn up, win the game, move on, tick it off. Next game, win, move on. I don't think we've got any room for error here. So I'm looking forward to the game, but what I'm looking forward to more is just seeing Arsenal get their machine head back on and be like, right, Newcastle, just another game. It's just another game. Win it, move on. And that's what I think we need to do, because City are not even playing that well, and they're just winning games now. They Liverpool are winning 4-1 with half their team, but some key players out, and they're just beating teams 4-1. So we need to kind of match that. That's the level now. So I'm looking forward to it, but Arsenal don't have we can't play games. And I think Saka is someone in particular I'm looking, even at his young age, to really do what Martinelli did last season at this stage of the season, to really be like, I'm the guy. Player of the year is up for grabs. Player of the year, I think, is up for grabs. If Saka can have a strong end to the season, he can be the guy, and I need to see that from him if he's the guy that Frank tells me he is.
I don't give a shit about player of the year. Just win the fucking Premier League.
No, but what I'm saying is, if he wins player of the year, it will be because he's taken us to the title.
PL. You mean Premier League Player of the Year? Okay,
Premier League, yeah, PFA. Oh no, okay about that.
Not February Player of the Month.
No.
I mean, more ammunition to the
Player of the Month is up for grabs. You do not want to lose it to Ben White, okay? Fucking step up. Show us what you're made of.
Oh, mate. I ain't got much to say on Newcastle.
All of the month is up for grabs, okay?
There's 3 more left. Go for them all. Hat trick. Let me bring up the prediction table. No change on the prediction table. We all predicted wins and we lost. So James is still top, 29 points. I'm in second on 25. Lee's in third on 23. Jordan's in fourth on 21. And I'd just like to let the people know that, you know, how good a man I am and how forgiving I am, because Lee once again today was late to the stream and I didn't deduct a point. I didn't put him up for trial. I didn't take him to court about it. I just said, you know what, Lee, just, you know, chin up. Next time you'll do better. And I do believe in him.
Lee, do you see what he's doing there? Do you see what he's doing? He's trying to bank up all of his favors. So when he messes up, he can say, well, Lee, when you were a minute late, when you were in Portugal, don't fall for it, Lee. Don't fall for it.
He's doing it while 4 points clear of you.
Exactly.
Absolute beast, the bloke, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, he absolutely knows why I was like, you know, and Robbie's just been showing a bit like, you know, how modern technology works and all that, how we got this, like, you know, so. But we've managed to get through it today, like, you know.
Oh, you're acting like you've been frozen for 50 years and you've just been fooled out. Like, yo, you've been alive in the last 20 years. What do you mean modern day technology? You're here.
I've got this paper.
He's using a toaster to lean up his phone. It's in a toaster. It's in a freaking toaster.
But we've got there, like, you know. We've got there.
We got there. All right, cool. So that prediction table there, no change, and predictions for Newcastle about to get underway. James.
I could really regret this. 3-0 Arsenal.
Oh.
Arsenal are going to do one or two. Let me just say this right now. Arsenal
one or two things.
I'm doing a lead judges. I'm going to tell you right now. Let me say this right now. Let me fucking say this right now.
I'm going to be honest right now.
Yeah, you know what? I'll be honest with you right fucking now.
I'll be really honest.
I'll be really honest with you.
Yeah. Do you know what? Do you know what, boys? I'll say it now.
You done okay?
You done okay. For me, Arsenal's defeats, they come in rows of 2 or 3. So Arsenal, we could easily be on Sunday, Monday, whenever we do the podcast. We could easily on the podcast going, we've had one of those weeks. We've had a shitter of a week. Arsenal, we've had that conversation about Arsenal many times. Or they respond and they blow them away. And I'm nervous that Arsenal do one of those 2-3 games where it takes them a while to get out their system, and then they get that 7-day break and then they come out going again. But I'm going to trust that this isn't a tiredness thing. You know, it's only been 5 games in a month. I think they'll respond. I think this is the perfect opportunity to 3-0.
3-0. 3-1. Lee.
Jesus Christ. Right, yeah, mate.
It's been a while. I need one of them to come in.
So predictable Turkish, like, you know what I mean? I was gonna. Do you know what? I was gonna go 3-0, James. I really was. I was gonna go 3-0. I just feel.
Just say it now. Just go with it.
It's okay.
okay.
I'm going to do a James. I'm going to go 2-0. I think.
Don't sound like that.
I bet you do.
Jordan, 3-0, James, 2-0, Lee, 3-1, me.
I'm going 2-0 as well. I'm going 2-0. I think. Sorry, Lee, but I'm going 2-0. I don't think it'll be a lot of goals. I think we will keep it clean sheet. They've got some injuries still, Newcastle, if I'm not mistaken. They've got some key players still out. And I just think, in all seriousness, I think we need to make sure that we win. Liverpool aren't playing this weekend in the league, so if we can win, just put a little bit of pressure on Liverpool. They got a cup final, so
I played last night.
Oh, was that the game that they were meant to play on the weekend?
Oh,
I see. Okay. Well, either way, we just got to handle. Go on.
I think that was part of the shitter for us. They were 1-0 down. Like 2
yeah.
hours in football, right? We go into it, favourites to beat Porto, 2 points off Liverpool. We end it 5 points off Liverpool, 1-0 down to Porto. You're like, what a terrible 2 hours. And I know there's a game in hand. I know. But it's just that feeling of, we had the better goal difference and we were 2 points behind them. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, we've got to sit on that for a while. So
deflating all round. Prediction table out of the way. Comment of the day coming up shortly. Yes. Who should we start with?
I'm ready. I'll kick off.
Go on.
yeah, got some good ones.
There was, I think half the comments were showing a lot of love for Super Kev. So big up all the viewers that were
and the
showing
other
a lot of
half
love.
showing love for Havertz. But...
Havertz, yeah. I got one comment here from Lennox Mate who just said, "I'm a Birmingham City fan, but I loved Kevin Campbell as a player. Always gave 100%. Was a tremendous team player. He produced some brilliant finishes. I used to love Kevin's show with Lee. It's a shame it didn't continue. Get well soon, Kevin." So big up, Kevin. And another one I just pointed out here from Anthony K. Jordan, the type of guy to be a judge for Arsenal's best podcast, but still put an argument in for West Ham Fan TV. Jokes aside, you lot are top. Long-time supporter of you all individually and together here on the pod. So big up Anthony K for that comment there as well.
Nice.
Big up.
I've got a few,
big up.
got a few good ones.
Yeah, I haven't got a comment of the day.
Ooh.
Because I've been blown away with all the Kevin comments. So it wouldn't be fair to just name one of them, like, you know what I mean? But I know Kevin has watched and listened to all them and read all those comments as well, and that would have meant a lot to him and everything like that. So I just want to say to all those comments, thank you for them. That was so much appreciated. And you know, like, Kevin is doing a lot better. He's up and about on the wall now, which is good. And to see all those comments and all that was lovely. So thank you guys for all those Kevin comments. Much appreciated.
Yeah, agree with that.
Big up, everyone. To be honest, my one I picked out was one of them as well, from Martha, who's a big supporter of the channel. I always see your comments, Martha. I hope you're well. Appreciate the love. She said, I adore Kevin Campbell. What a beautiful human being. Wishing you a very speedy recovery, darling man. And my other comment of the day was the one that I got in earlier that I couldn't wait. It was from Arsenal FC Football. Said Havertz best thing at the club right now. He's behind every single goal. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad someone finally said it.
Yeah, I'm pleased for it, like, because I'm a big Kai fan. Like, you know, 29 on me back.
You lot will die on that sword as well, mate. Trust me.
Did you meet Kai by any chance? Because you're talking about him a lot like you talk about Edu, and I just sort of wonder whether
He sits next to his cousin at games.
I like
Do
him.
you?
I like he's my.
He's joking, James.
Well, I don't know. He sat next to Granit Xhaka's family. He's met Edu. He's best friends with Nick Ramsdale. You never know with Lee.
It's true.
You never know with Lee. And also there was a little Eddie comment there earlier in the show. You know, could he have brought Eddie? I don't know if you met one of his family members recently. I know maybe there's
Yeah, Laurie, fucking his dad.
All right. My comment. Couple. From Jimmy, he says, I like this. James talks about Arsenal like a professor talks about quantum physics. Wow. Thank you. I'm going to tell you that. He says jokes, love for the lads. I love for the love lads. I actually, I take that as a compliment. Thank you very much.
Big
I
up.
think we need more of that. Anyway,
Julian, wake up, Julian, wake up. Julian just nodded off for there. I don't know why he nodded off like. I don't know why. You know.
He knows he's about to record Invincible.
I think you're very interesting, James.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you.
Is Cecil still there?
Cecil's still there, yeah.
Well, to be honest, people, just so you know, this video comes out around 11:12, and around 11:12, head over to Twitter because Cecil's going to be running a Twitter space real soon, live from Portugal. So make sure you go check that out. Make sure you join up, give your opinions. He's live for 90 minutes straight. It's about you, people. It's about you. Without you, there's no Twitter space. So make sure you're there. And also, I just want to big up James as well, in particular, because I'm seeing the good work he's doing on his channel. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out because it's quality work, quality edits, quality thumbnails. He's really doing his thing. Big up Max as well.
That's really kind of you, Turkish. That's really kind of you. But I did have one more comment.
Fuck this guy's channel, man. Don't worry about it.
That's really sweet of you.
What's more important, me telling people about your channel or this flipping comment you're about to bring up?
Well, ask Dwayne. I don't know. It's his comment. But
let me see what Dwayne's saying.
Better be good.
He goes, I love the intro song to this pod. Really great. It's all downhill from there.